Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. For those of you just joining, we're E.N.G Media. We've got a really exciting guest for you guys today. Tammy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm really excited to dive into the new book that you're just getting ready to launch, and also, talk a little bit about I am HCM Consulting as well. So really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. It's an honor and a blessing to be here, Tyson. I'm really excited to share from my book as well as whatever we talk about today.
Yeah, awesome. Let's definitely dive in. Maybe it's best if we just start by you telling us a little bit about, your experience over the past 30 years in, the HR space, a little bit about I am HCM Consulting, and maybe we can start there. I feel like that might be best.
Sure, no problem. Well, I am HCM Consulting. I want to make sure people know what we're saying because it kind of
Sure.
runs together, but it's literally I am, like IAM, in just
Mhm.
one word, and then HCM for Human Capital Management Consulting. And we
Awesome.
started the company about 10 years ago out of a need. We really felt I was, my career in the industry for 30 years now, prior to starting the company, was literally rescue missions. I kept getting called into HR tech projects that needed basically redirected,
Wow.
rescued from a mess, whatever it was. And I said, wow, what is happening out there? And what can I
Yeah.
do to help get in the front before the rescue is needed, right?
Mm.
But I needed to make sure there was a strong team because I was turning work away. And so I started a company and educated some new consultants.
Nice.
And over the past 10 years, we've just been helping clients with all their HR technology needs. We are a service provider. We are not a software sales provider. So there is a
Mhm.
distinguishing factor there because we are not tied or linked to a specific software. We
Gotcha.
want to help our clients not only have their current software work in a way that they're expecting,
Mhm.
but we want to help them on their journey because there's so many changes happening right now. Anybody
Right.
who's gone to an HR tech conference lately will tell you there's over 20,000 products out there. It's
Right.
overwhelming. I think people leave there and they've got the shakes and the sweats because they're like, how are we going to do this? So we
Right.
try to take that stress away. The company, honestly, we are faith based, which means I like the tag phrase of HR tech meets Jesus
Yeah.
because I just can't separate who I am in Christ from everything I do all day long. So it became a part of our picture here at IMHCM Consulting.
Love
All
it.
that means to someone who might be a client is I think honestly you're going to have a high value engagement with us. It's going to be one that is driven by our core values that we really take to heart and we live them out every day. Um, we also know from being in the industry as long as we have that it's stressful. It's really stressful
Yeah.
to make decisions and have a tech project of any kind. So we take the position almost, it sounds funny, but we're almost
Mhm.
like your therapist too, because
Sure.
we come in the door and we just want to say, hey, let's talk through this. We have a very intentional methodology,
Mhm.
but one of the things I really think is missing out there is this is very stressful, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times in these projects, there's division, there's departments that don't like working together. So, what we try to do is really build teamwork and also bring the fun. We like to
Yeah.
have fun. I think we forget about that on these projects. So we bring fun. We help to theme your projects out.
Oh,
Have
nice.
milestone celebrations. Really engaging the team.
Yeah.
And it's our hope when this project is over that not only do you have a system that is functioning well, but
Mhm.
your team is actually stronger and
Yeah.
bonded better because we have seen the power of some of the techniques we use with our clients
Yeah.
really improve interdepartmental relationships.
Oh,
So
wow.
it is a true partnership. It's we have a built-in project manager. We do satisfaction surveys all the time. I will say this because I like to put it out there: we're not for everyone, right?
Mhm.
Because I'll be honest, not a lot of clients they're feeling pressure right now and they want to just go and run.
Right.
And we're trying to tell them no, stop, breathe, and plan.
I love it.
So it's kind of our I don't know if you ever remember back in the day, stop, drop, and roll when they tell you if you're in a fire. So I
Yeah.
thought, well, we're almost in a fire. Let's stop, breathe, and plan. Um,
I love it.
so that's who we are as a company. Very passionate about what we do, but also very relationship driven.
Yeah, I can definitely see your got the importance and focus you guys place on the relationship side of things. I wanted to ask you as well. Do you see a lot of some of the consulting work that you guys do? It sounds like you guys are providing like a tactical service essentially. Really, you're not just providing like a specific software to these companies, but when you're helping a lot of these companies through maybe some of the tech projects, for example, that they're working on. Do you ever see any kind of scenarios where maybe the tech and everything like that is working perfectly, but really, like you said, the teams are in disagreement and like maybe they don't really enjoy working with each other, or they haven't really established a good relationship before you guys came in. And like, how does that work? Do they usually kind of get to that result if like, let's just say the tech project, looks like it's going to be successful, but the team is having trouble collaborating and working together? Is that like a huge problem that you're seeing?
Well, honestly, since I've been doing this so long, it's very common, so I'm not surprised. Matter of fact, when I get into the companies where it's a healthy culture and everybody's, caring and
Hmm.
working well together, I'm always delightfully surprised. So what we really do aim to do, and honestly, it ties right in with what the book theme is, which I know we're going to talk about, but we need to remember we're all humans. We're in this together.
Yeah.
Jill in the payroll department may not like, Joe or Jim over in HR because
Right.
they're arguing about data or the sequence of the process and who messed up what on that employee record.
Right.
So what we aim to achieve, and it really comes down to the support of the C-suite and
Mhm.
the key stakeholders of the project, is we want to bring people together.
Yeah.
So, how we do that, honestly, is we'll have workshops
Uh-huh.
and we will partner some of the interdepartmental folks together
Oh, well.
and walk through some things. And we, like I said, bring the fun.
Yeah.
Laughter bonds people. You know that. It's a universal
100%.
language. We don't even need to understand each other. And when we're laughing, you're bonding. There's
Right.
something refreshing that comes with laughter. So we like to laugh. And so we create an environment where the teams can learn to see one another as truly neighbors and humans, not just someone in a department that's
Right.
making your life miserable. So, yes, we see it, and we have basically techniques and methodologies we use to help solve for that. And so we
Yeah.
work with the key stakeholders, the leaders who are leading the project up front to better understand that. That's some of the questions we ask. Or we also kind of have our own discernment through
Yeah.
these things because we've been doing it so long.
I got you. No, that I definitely have a better understanding now kind of how that works and how you guys are help solving for that. And really, like I mentioned, at the start of our podcast, I know that you're just getting ready to launch a book in early June, Shiny Objects, which really, the whole theme of the book is that technology is really outshining the human in the HR space. And really, it's like a tactical guide on kind of how to look at it, like from a perspective, really, but also like how to help solve for that. Right. And so, can you maybe explain to myself and the audience a little bit behind like what's the why behind creating the book, Shiny Objects, and like maybe like just give like a brief overview of kind of what is covered.
For sure. Well, I just happen to have a copy in my hands.
Nice.
So I have some bookmarked pages, and we've got three parts to the book. The beginning is, and I'm going to read a little bit maybe from my invitation because I think that will say a lot to our audience today. But there's
Yeah.
part one, for instance, is all about the challenge and perspective, the why behind the what. And chapters
Mm.
1 through 6 cover everything from the history of HR and its technology, which I find intriguing, uh,
Yeah.
through topics like the great identity crisis, change champions, harmonious workplaces, compassionate leadership. Um, then we go into part two, which is wisdom from the ages and maybe a little tech talk. So
Mm.
I took something I think is very unique. Again, HR Tech meets Jesus,
Yeah.
where I decided to write this book from the perspective of how I've run my business and how I have found it to be successful under the underpinning of
Mhm.
biblical principles. And I'm really hoping the audience will find this an intriguing storytelling book. So
Yeah.
that part two is all about what the scriptures say about humans, everything from how they should be paid,
Mhm.
training and development, nurturing potential through talents and gifts. And then part three is just called Trust Through Stewardship and the Heart of Leadership.
Uh,
And a couple extra chapters there to just really take it to the next level of, ethical employee data usage and being the corporate social responsibility kind of companies that we hope exist, right?
nice.
And having love in action. And I will tell you, the book is I know you just got your copy, so you haven't had time to really
Yeah.
digest it, but I try to keep it funny because I think it's important to have a couple chuckles while you're learning and storytelling. And it's very, I think, disarming for
Mhm.
anybody, regardless of your beliefs. So that's what I want people to know is this isn't about converting anybody. This is about just looking at it through a different lens. And
100%.
let's see what could really happen if we followed these principles. And
Uh-huh.
maybe you don't like the word Bible or Jesus, so just ignore those words, but look at what the book says. It can
Yeah.
apply to anybody. So, just real quick, if it's okay,
Sure.
Tyson, I'll share an excerpt from the beginning of my book.
Please. Yeah.
Okay. So, my invitation is so, why am I writing this book? Simple: to inspire your faith, to show how to ensure technology doesn't outshine the human in human resources, and to encourage leaders to get back to caring for what really matters: people. This book goes beyond HR technology. It's about people, purpose, and yes, even faith. I invite you to consider how ancient wisdom can help us navigate modern challenges, especially in the messy world of HR information systems, which combines the complexity of humans with the ever changing landscape of information systems. We'll explore thought provoking questions. Why does caring about people at work matter?
Right.
How do systems help or hinder our humanity? What lessons can we learn from the Bible's design for relationships and stewardship? How do systems and people collaborate to enrich human lives? Pondering such questions together might just lead us to ask ourselves, WWJD, what would Jesus download? Let's learn, laugh, and unravel the complexity of HR tech together. By the end, there's a chance you'll not only see your HR software in a new light, but yourself differently too.
Love it. I love it. Yeah. And I think that really, like I said, just the focus on people is huge. And, kind of like we as businesses and all, small organizations, but also larger organizations as well, like sometimes we get lost in like the numbers or just focusing specifically on like the results that are being pushed maybe from somebody who's higher up or like people that we're working with. And I think it does get, the human aspect of like how we're working together within a team with the people that we work with. It kind of gets lost whenever we're more focused, I guess, on the results. So it's awesome that you've tied in like faith into your book. And like you said, even if somebody's not religious, they can still draw correlations on like how they should, like the right perspective, I guess, to root like how they look to get results and how they work with their team. And so that's really awesome. And something that sticks out to me in the book as well is you've got a chapter in here titled, the original shiny objects. Can you kind of like walk us through what that a little bit more, I guess, about like what's behind that and what it's about?
Sure thing. Well, first of all, I did want to point out
Mhm.
the title of the book being Shiny Objects was driven off of the fact that when I was telling people about what I was writing, I was saying, there's so much noise out there. There's 20,000 plus products, and everybody's looking for that next shiny object. They just keep reaching for that next thing,
Right.
and they're doing it. And honestly, this could be built in us as humans anyway. We
Mhm.
want the latest and greatest. We get FOMO. Are we missing out on something? Oh my goodness, I need to get involved. So
Right.
when we came up with the title, my dear friend Davin Salvagno helped me with that, and it was like, that's it, that's the one. Because first of all, I do like bling and shiny objects, so
Yeah.
it fit my personality. But let me just read a little excerpt here. I am a believer that God did create us in his image, and what the Bible says. I believe the Bible. So I'm reading
Mhm.
this from my own beliefs. But so imagine with me, if you will, listeners and Tyson,
Yeah.
imagine God creating us and then saying, whoops, didn't mean to give him that many emotions and opinions. But no, in Genesis 1:27, God tells us carefully that he crafted each individual in his image, like a master chef creating a one-of-a-kind dish. So
Love
he
it.
put thought and care into every aspect of our being, from our appearance to our personalities. It's like he's the ultimate designer, but instead of fashion, he created living, breathing works of art with the ability to laugh, cry, and appreciate a good dad joke. We humans are the original shiny objects in God's eyes. And
Ah,
that's a big message. I'm so passionate about it. That's usually what I write when I sign the books because we are the original shiny object. So if we
yeah.
bring this into the HR tech world, right? Imagine walking into your office or your virtual office
Yeah.
and seeing each colleague as a unique masterpiece created in God's image. Suddenly, Deborah from accounting isn't just the woman who keeps reminding you about that silly expense report.
Right.
Yeah, she's a divine creation with untapped potential and a story all her own. This perspective shift is exactly what we need in our approach to HR technology. We're not just managing resources, we're nurturing image bearers of the divine.
Right.
Whoa, that has a weightiness to our roles that most of us don't consider or even imagine. So if we level up, we know we're reporting to our boss or whatever, but in my
Uh,
world, I report to the ultimate CEO. That's my God, right?
yep.
So everything I do, I don't care who's watching or who's not watching, I'm reporting to him. And if
100%.
we take that perspective and how much he loves each one of us, even maybe people we don't like or family members we don't get along with, he
Yeah.
still loves them too. So
Right.
how can we shift our perspective and see it through a different lens? And once we take that step, Tyson, it's
Uh,
so freeing because then you don't, there's not that urge for control. You
yeah.
actually want to understand people better.
100%. No, I love that. And I love that, like you said, you're kind of reporting above instead of just like kind of what's in the sensory environment really in front of you. So I love that. And I think too, I do agree that everybody is unique in a certain way. Like just because maybe like you said, somebody is in the accounting space, they're not just the person that deals with the numbers. Like everybody kind of has that unique perspective. And I know another topic in your book deals with neurodivergence, which when I looked a little more into that, it's individuals whose brains and how they process information and how they experience certain things is like differently. Like they all have it differently than the majority of other people. Can you kind of shed a little bit of light maybe into that concept and how that ties into your book and everything you talk about in shiny objects?
Sure. And neurodiversity was a new thing for me. I had to do my
Uh,
own studying on it, right? So it is newer, but once I learned, like you said, you looked it up, I said, "Oh my word." Because I tell a funny story. There's these I
uh,
call them my confession corners in the book.
yeah.
It's after some of the chapters, not all of them, but I basically confess about something. And in this
Yeah.
one I confess about the neurodiverse difference between my husband and I. It's
Uh,
actually a funny story, but I think what we aren't paying attention to, and first it has to start with leadership, right? Because our employees, our staff, our team members aren't going to know about this or be leading in these ways or thinking of these things unless the leaders are.
right.
But if you're a leader, and you mentioned it really, you said it really well that people that are neurodivergent,
Mm,
process things differently. Okay, so this can be individuals with autism, ADHD, dyslexia, and in the workplace, it really is important to recognize these and embrace the differences in order to create that more inclusive and productive environment.
yeah.
And technology now has so many ways we can help those who are neurodivergent. But I want to say, and some of that's through ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, helping
Yeah.
them write better or communicate better. But there's even other technology that goes further, that goes steps further based on what their needs are.
Hmm.
Um, I think there's one I read about that I was so intrigued by where it was someone who's basically blind,
Uh,
definitely visibly impaired, visually impaired,
uh,
and they had they had a thing where you could, as um, say a colleague or coworker wear these virtual glasses and experience what that person's day is like,
Oh
what
wow.
they're able to see. And I think those are the things we need. We need to be more understanding of each other
Yeah.
because the neurodivergent aren't just the ones that, quote, have a label on it. In
Right.
some ways, we're all neurodivergent, right?
100%.
And we've got a lot of noise out there about DEI, whether it should be or not be.
Yeah.
And I talk about that in my book too. But I believe um, the neurodivergent folks, if they are able to identify themselves, because sometimes they don't even know. Honestly, people aren't in touch with the fact that they might be neurodivergent.
Right.
But if you have an environment, a culture that is trusting, caring, and loving, people will share challenges they have because dyslexia isn't something you can see on their face,
Right.
or maybe you are a slow processor, and that's kind of my story with my husband.
Uh,
And we, myself, like that person that wants to get things done, can be
mhm.
impatient with the one that takes so long to say something, and
Mhm.
we feel put out by it. Like, what? Why don't they say it? But if we backed up, if we knew their story, if we understood why, why,
Yeah.
why is that person that way? You know what? Probably they experienced some trauma in their life, and they were actually traumatized and they have
Yeah.
some neurodivergence because of it. So if we would just be kinder and get to know people better. And one of the rules we live by in our home, or sure try to, is to
Uh-huh.
think the best in each other always. So if something goes sideways, we approach it in that perspective, right? And
Yeah.
so the neurodiversity aspect of our culture, I think, has a long way to go, but we
Yeah.
can start. Each one of us can make a difference in the world.
100%. Yeah. No, I love that. And I think, like you said, it's just like stop, kind of take a deep breath, and just
Mhm.
realize that really everybody is human. And I know like another key topic in your book talks a lot about how like we as people are born more, I guess, self-centered, as you would say. And I think a lot of people would really agree with that. And then there's a process that people go through to kind of learn how to look outside themselves, really. And it sounds like you use some personal examples in your book that really demonstrate examples of that. Can you maybe share one of those examples, or like where you've seen this kind of in just in like the day-to-day life, like as you're running a business, like what, like, can you, I guess, speak to the importance of the like people learning to look outside of themselves and be more like servant minded and more, I guess, focused on helping others around them instead of just self-centered, I guess, initiatives.
Right, right. And that's a fun topic, Tyson, because it isn't there isn't a straight line, there isn't a formula, right?
Yeah.
We know that when children can start talking when they're toddlers, what's one of the
Mhm.
first words they know how to say? No, or mine. So
Right.
we have a bend as humans, but our hope, our goals individually should be that we mature and grow and get past that and become a better human, right? What is a better human? Well, my example is Jesus Christ because he was perfect, right? I'll never be perfect, but he's my example of how to love, how to care for people.
Mhm.
So for me, that whole topic started with myself in reality because I had to look within myself and realize, wow, you really judge people. I
Mm.
make a lot of judgments a little too quick. I might because I still have that tendency. We all do.
Mhm.
We have to kind of fight it, right? That
Yep.
tendency to look out for self first because we are designed and God put it in us for a reason to want to protect ourselves, to extend our lives. All these things are normal survival
Right.
pieces of how He made us. Well, think about then you have to stop and go, okay, is this necessary? Do I really, is this selfishness because I'm saving my life or just because I'm selfish?
Mm.
So I learned most of this through God. God allowed my marriage to teach me a lot of this because my
Mhm.
husband is the most humble, serving person. And I did not grow up really in a family where we were volunteering much or learning anything about helping other people. It was
Mhm.
all about us. And so I didn't get exposed to that until I had my own, story of meeting my Savior and how He
Wow.
changed my heart to realize the power and the joy that comes from helping others and
Yeah.
thinking outside of myself. So the human tendency will always be for selfishness, and it still is
Correct.
something I wage war with, right? But because I'm in the Word every day, the Word is what renews my mind and transforms me to be more like Christ, which is the whole purpose. That's why He left us the Bible.
Right.
But for the workplace and the fact that we are all now coming together to accomplish a goal together, a mission at an organization, whatever that mission is,
Mhm.
um, now it can get messy, right? Because we're going to have to work together and we have to think less of ourselves and maybe more of our colleagues. And most people aren't going to do that naturally.
Right.
There has to be a good like carrot at the end of that, like
Yeah.
dangling. Like what is it for me? Because even in that, we're saying, well, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
But in reality, try it. All I got to say to people is try. Just go out and volunteer somewhere. Do
Yeah.
something like that with your family. Your kids will love it, and it changes you. And then you start having a different attitude even at the workplace because you realize, you know what? Jody's been really quiet lately. Maybe there's something going on in her life. You start
Yeah.
thinking more about people actually being human
Right.
instead of like, ah, they're that accounting person or they're that payroll person or the HR person. So
100%.
yeah, so I think it has to be either a cultural thing that the leaders are leading out within an organization
Yeah.
because it's an extraordinary task
Yeah.
to take, and my team has gone through it. My team has been transformed because we serve together, we
Yep.
volunteer, we be generous together, give of our finances as well to help with different disasters around the country. And there's just such a fulfillment that comes from that. It's
Yeah.
almost selfish in a way just to do it because
I
we're
know.
so blessed by it. I'm sure you know.
100%. Yeah, I think that, but like you said, it's definitely not like our natural state as humans. Like, kind of looking outside of yourself is definitely something that has to be learned. And I always, there's a quote that I love, and it's the world isn't as it is, it's as you are. So, like, the way you look, and if you feel like everybody is negative around you and everybody's out to get you, maybe that's a sign to like consciously look at yourself, and maybe that's how, because you see things that way, that might be how you are. And there's definitely some things to change. And like you said, nobody's perfect really, but I think always trying to be in alignment with like trying to do the right thing and being more servant minded and caring about other people. In reality, that'll get you the results that you want, instead of just doing things selfishly, really. And so I love that you said like just give it a try. And I'm
Yeah.
glad that I did, and I definitely feel more fulfilled. And I'll sometimes slip back into thinking selfishly because it's almost like that's easier, and it like, I don't want to say negativity is our natural state, but I think like consciously making the decision to think positively and to just focus on other people instead of always selfishly thinking about how certain things make you feel will, I guess, give you better results and make you more fulfilled in the long run, really. So,
Yes, absolutely. And I do this with my husband sometimes when we're driving. Think of when you're driving. Okay, we've all done it where we're irritated by another driver. Like, oh, they're going so slow, or they cut you off or something, right? And this will happen. And I always say, because my husband, and we joke about it because
mhm.
we're working through this, but he'll like blow the horn and
Yeah,
pass the person, and I'm just dying in the passenger seat. And I look over, I'm like, that was someone's grandma. What are you doing? So like for me, it's almost like, hey, listen, what if, and this is the example of driving and having a bad driver in front of you or around you, and there are, I'll just be honest, there are idiots out there.
yeah,
But what about if you're blowing the horn, you're losing your mind over someone, and they are going through the hardest time of their life. They just found out some bad news. They're struggling with something. We have no idea, or it is someone's grandma or grandpa that probably shouldn't be driving, but let's be nice to them. Or what if that was your grandma? How would
right.
you feel if you looked over and it's your grandma? Oh my gosh, I feel terrible, right? Because you love them. Well, if we just learn to love each other a little better,
Yeah.
it would change everything. And I'm on a mission to have that impact anywhere possible.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's almost like there's always going to be a stimulus, and then there's that area between like a stimulus and a response, and that's like really where our power is, and where we can like
Mm.
look to respond intentionally instead of just like kind of reacting emotionally. So I love that, and I think anybody that maybe they want to follow. along with what Tammy has going on, because I know that you're active on social media. Like you're definitely going to start talking more about shiny objects as it gets released. I guess outside of IMHCM, website, where would be the best place for people to go to maybe see some of the awesome stuff that you guys are working on?
Well, definitely LinkedIn. We kind of live out there. I
Right.
would say follow our IM HCM Consulting LinkedIn page. Also, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn, Tammy Castro. And then I would say if you have a burning question, feel free to email me. It's Tammy at imhcmconsulting.com, or Jennifer, actually, if you're interested in learning more about services we offer. She is our relationship growth director, Jennifer Heideloff. So her email is Jennifer at IMHCM Consulting. If you'd like me to come and speak, we do plan to do a book road show
Yeah.
coming up in the fall in the Southeast. But if you'd like us to come to your city or somewhere nearby, or would like to learn more about how I could speak for you, you can go to email me at Tammy at tammycastro.com, or go to my website, tammycastro.com, and you'll learn more there. And there's plenty of information and more stories.
Awesome. I love it. And I'll be sure to include all the links to your guys' social media and your website in the description of our video, kind of just to give you guys a backstory. I connected with Jennifer and Tammy as well, and I actually had filled out a form to get an early release copy of Tammy's book. So I've got it here. I hadn't checked the mail in a while, but now I have it. So I'm super excited to dive into it. Tammy actually, wrote me a handwritten letter here that really impressed my girlfriend and I. So I highly recommend that you guys check out both Tammy, I am HCM Consulting. I want to give a shout out to Jennifer as well, because she was my first contact before speaking with Tammy, and just amazing people doing amazing things. So highly recommend that you guys go check out all the awesome stuff that they're working on. But other than
Yeah.
that, thank you so much again, Tammy, for your time and for your insights today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I know we didn't tell them the release date, so I'll
Yeah.
just say that real quick. On Amazon, it releases June 7th, although you can pre-order now. And then, of course, after June 7th, you can also order. But it's exciting. I can't wait to hear what people think of it. So anybody that might pick it up, feel free to email me your thoughts, even the stuff that you may not agree with. I'm okay with that. Let's talk. That's what it's about.
Yeah, maybe you guys can start a hashtag Ask Tammy and
There you go.
do a social media campaign, right? But there you guys
That's
have it,
good.
June 7th.
That's great.
So awesome. Well, I'll make sure that we make that post around then. So by the time you guys see this video, the book should definitely be out with Tammy. I'm definitely looking forward to you guys reading it and seeing everybody's response to the book. So thank you so much
Thank
again, Tammy.
you.
Really appreciate you coming on our podcast.
Thank you, Tyson. It's been my honor and blessing, and I do wish you all the best going forward. And let's keep the conversation going.
Let's do it. Thank you so
Okay.
much again. I'll see you guys in the next video.
Sounds great.